Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking, Fast and Slow, explores the way humans think and make decisions. It delves into how our minds are not as logical as we assume, revealing that our thinking is heavily influenced by biases, shortcuts, and emotions. Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, divides human thinking into two systems, System 1 and System 2. This division forms the foundation of the entire book and explains how our mind works in both fast, instinctive ways and slow, deliberate ways. System 1, Fast Thinking. System 1 operates automatically and quickly, with little to no conscious effort. This is the type of thinking we use when we make snap judgments or quick decisions. It is intuitive, emotional, and based on past experiences. For example, recognizing a familiar face in a crowd, answering simple math like 2 + 2, or avoiding danger instinctively all happen through System 1. It helps us make quick decisions, but it is prone to errors because it relies on assumptions and stereotypes. System 1 is the reason we sometimes make irrational decisions. It jumps to conclusions without gathering all the necessary information. Although it is fast and efficient, it can often lead to biases and mistakes. Kahneman explains that while System 1 helps us survive in many situations, it is not always reliable when complex problems or logical thinking are required. System 2, Slow Thinking. System 2 is slow, conscious, and deliberate. It is what we use when solving difficult problems, such as calculating the square root of a large number or making a well-considered financial decision. System 2 requires effort and concentration, which is why we don't engage it all the time. It takes more mental energy. Kahneman notes that people prefer to conserve energy, so they often rely on System 1 whenever possible. While System 2 allows us to be rational and solve complex problems, it is also slow and demanding. We tend to avoid using System 2 unless absolutely necessary. This is why we often fall back on heuristics, mental shortcuts from System 1, even when a problem requires deeper analysis. Kahneman shows that balancing both systems is essential to avoid making poor decisions. Cognitive biases and heuristics. Kahneman dedicates a large part of the book to biases and heuristics, which are mental shortcuts used by System 1. These shortcuts save time but often lead to errors in judgment. Some of the most important biases explained in the book include: 1. Anchoring bias. People rely too heavily on the first piece of information they encounter, the anchor, when making decisions. For example, if someone hears that a product costs $500, they may consider a $300 price tag a bargain, even if $300 is still expensive. 2. Availability heuristic. This refers to how easily something comes to mind. We tend to believe that events we can recall easily, such as airplane crashes, happen more often than they actually do. This can distort our perception of reality and lead to poor decisions. 3. Confirmation bias. We naturally seek information that confirms what we already believe, and we ignore evidence that contradicts our views. This bias limits our ability to think objectively and keeps us stuck in flawed beliefs. 4. Loss aversion. Kahneman's research shows that people fear losses more than they value gains. Losing $100 feels more painful than gaining $100 feels pleasurable. This bias makes people overly cautious, and they may avoid risks even when there's a chance for significant rewards. Prospect theory. Understanding how we evaluate gains and losses. One of the key concepts Kahneman discusses is prospect theory, which explains how people value gains and losses differently. According to this theory, people tend to avoid losses more than they pursue equivalent gains. For example, the pain of losing $50 is greater than the happiness of gaining $50. This theory challenges the traditional view that humans make decisions purely rationally. Kahneman explains that people are not always consistent when making decisions, especially under uncertainty. Depending on how a situation is framed, they might make different choices. For example, people may react differently if an outcome is framed as a 90% chance of survival versus a 10% chance of death, even though both statements describe the same scenario. This illustrates how emotions and context influence decisions. The role of overconfidence. Kahneman also explores how overconfidence affects our decision-making. Many people believe they know more than they actually do. Experts, in particular, can be overconfident in their predictions, which can lead to mistakes. Kahneman warns that people tend to overestimate their ability to predict outcomes, especially in uncertain situations. This overconfidence can result in poor decisions in fields like finance, business, and politics. A related concept is the illusion of control. People often believe they have more control over events than they really do. For example, an investor might think they can predict the stock market's movements, even though many of these changes are random. Kahneman emphasizes the importance of humility and accepting the limits of our knowledge. The planning fallacy. Another cognitive trap described by Kahneman is the planning fallacy. This occurs when people underestimate how long a task will take or how much effort it will require, even if they have past experiences showing otherwise. For example, individuals may believe they can finish a project in a week, only to discover that it takes a month. Kahneman argues that optimism often leads people to make overly ambitious plans, which frequently result in delays and disappointments. The influence of emotions on decision-making. Kahneman explains that emotions play a crucial role in our decisions. People often assume they are making logical choices, but in reality, emotions heavily influence their thinking. Fear, happiness, anger, and sadness can all affect how we perceive risks and opportunities. This is why advertising and marketing often appeal to emotions rather than logic. They know that people respond more to feelings than to facts. The halo effect. Kahneman also discusses the halo effect, a bias where people allow their overall impression of someone or something to influence their judgment in unrelated areas. For example, if we like someone's personality, we are more likely to assume they are also competent or trustworthy, even if there is no evidence for it. This bias can lead to poor decisions in hiring, relationships, and other areas of life. How to improve decision-making. While Kahneman acknowledges that biases are hard to eliminate, he offers some strategies to improve decision-making. One way is to slow down and engage System 2 thinking for important decisions. Instead of relying on gut feelings, people should gather more information, consider alternative viewpoints, and question their assumptions. Kahneman also suggests pre-mortems, a technique in which people imagine a project has already failed and then try to identify what could have gone wrong. This approach helps teams anticipate problems and take preventive measures before starting a task. Conclusion. Awareness of biases leads to better thinking. In Thinking, Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman reveals that human thinking is a blend of fast, intuitive reactions and slow, deliberate analysis. Both systems have their strengths and weaknesses, but understanding how they work allows us to make better decisions. Kahneman's insights into cognitive biases, emotional influences, and decision-making traps empower readers to become more mindful thinkers. This book provides powerful insights into how the mind works and offers practical tools for improving everyday decision-making. If you want to make better choices and avoid common mental traps, Thinking, Fast and Slow is a must-read. If you enjoyed this explanation and want to learn more about self-help books that can transform your life, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Speakatale, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. Your support means a lot, and we look forward to sharing more amazing insights with you.